Are you ready, Rex?
Yeah, I'm all set. I don't know. Do I need to? Do you need a preamble? Or
No, I think we're. You came here. You came here. I mean, you came here to hear everybody, but certainly Rex is how we got you in the door, and so this is this is very exciting. We got so many questions. So many questions came in, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Um, we'll start up with a two-part question. Okay. Part one: who are your readers? Do you think your message is getting through to Trump voters who are starting to have buyer's remorse?
That's a good question. Uh, Based on the nice greeting, I'd say you all are probably my readers. There may not be any more outside of this room. Depends on what my email inbox looks like on any given day. Okay, so reaching Trump voters is a difficult to near impossible task. And I have said for quite some time, years, I've been covering this guy honestly, since before he even thought about the presidency. I was making fun of Donald Trump when he put up the stupid Trump sign on the river on Trump Tower. And I wrote some whole silliness about that. And then he finally did he came down the escalator, and then a few weeks later, he actually came to the Chicago Tribune. I'm sorry, this is not answering the question at all. But I'm going to do this anyway because I have this thing. So, he came to the Tribune Tower for a pre-planned meeting with the editorial board that was planned well before he made the presidential announcement. The woman who hired me originally at the Tribune was at that point on the editorial board. I had decided, and columnists were allowed to come to the editorial board meetings when there were significant figures there to ask questions and stuff. It was an unwritten rule. And so I was going to show up in a clown suit. Word of this somehow reached my kind soul, the editor who hired me, and my phone rings at my desk. She's like, "It's Marie." She's like, "Rex, are you serious?" And I was like, "What?" Trying to. And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, come on, it'll be fun." And she's like, "You just can't do. You can't do." I'm like, "Fine." So because of her, and she's the only reason. She's probably the only person in the Tribune who would keep me from doing that. But I didn't do it. But I did go to the meeting, and holy cow, was it nuts! I went in there prepared to write something funny about this. And for an hour and a half, I sat there with some of what I consider some of the finest political journalists in the country, myself very much excluded from that, but all my colleagues at the Tribune, and watched this guy dance around subjects, deflect, lie just blatantly. And I came out of it, and I walked out of the Tribune Tower, and I called my wife from the little square next to the Tribune Tower, and I said, "This guy's terrifying." I said, I've never been around. I had just literally I've interviewed tons of politicians. I had never been around anybody that just so completely deceitful and so terrifyingly calculating. And that's it. So anyway, that was my introduction to the actual politics of Donald Trump. Fast forward into the past decade. And fairly well into his first term, I decided that there is no reaching MAGA voters. And I don't like saying that, because despite my obvious biases and political leanings, I'm a firm believer in trying to get along with people who disagree with me. I never think I'm right about really anything. I just write what I think is true and accurate and good, but I don't pretend that that's I'm putting down the gospel or anything like that. So I like to hear different opinions. I like people to disagree with me and tell me why. But that wasn't what was happening with MAGA voters. And I had seen years of disagreement prior to this, where conservative people would disagree with me, but it was fine and we'd all have a good laugh at the end of the day. Now, this was altogether different. This led to threats. This led to, vitriol like I'd never seen before. And so it became apparent pretty quickly that, no, these folks are lost. And I didn't like saying that, but I meant it. And that included people I knew, friends, family members, and that sort of thing. And that they're not coming back. And so, now I'm finally, after all, I will answer more than one question tonight. but so what I have tried to bring throughout all of this is not targeted at Trump supporters. I don't think I'm going to win them over. I think I'm going to piss them off, which maybe gives me a secret little thrill. But I am writing for people like you and people who are trying to survive all this and people who are trying to put this into some kind of context. The number one response that I have gotten over all these years from readers has been, thank you, I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was the only one who saw this or who thought this way. And that means a lot to me. And it meant something to the readers too, to know that somebody out there is saying, this is messed up. This is not how this is supposed to be. Like, what is this? This is crazy. And then lampooning it or doing whatever it takes to highlight that. So that has been my goal, is not to think that I am going to reach Trump voters and they're going to be like, Rex has a good point here. But my goal has been to try to get people to see the light. Maybe people kind of in the middle, that sort of squishy middle, the low information folks that you referenced, or that aren't paying attention all the time, and maybe they just got swept up, or they voted with a pocketbook or whatever. Get them to see it. Yeah, that's great. Get folks like yourselves to nod along and know that you're not alone. That's also great. But reaching Trump supporters now. So I think what's happening now, the light bulb is coming on for a lot of people. Again, I don't know how to percentage it now exactly, but your absolute diehard MAGA is never coming back. They'll die thinking Trump was the greatest thing that ever happened in this country, and nothing we can do about that. But you're starting to see the people in the middle, the people who did, like maybe they didn't vote at all the first time around, then they were upset about the inflation and they voted this time around, and now they're realizing, oh boy, yeah, this was not good. I got flim or whatever. So that's positive. So you can reach those people. But as far as the true believers, this has been, as we've all seen, a pretty astonishingly large cult, and it's behaved like a cult because I think it basically is one. It lies somewhere between cult and just masterful con artistry. Right? I don't know exactly where it falls in that spectrum, but it's in there. And so it's hard to get those people back, and I felt bad about it. And I'm sure a lot of you all have too. It stinks. It's hard to say I'm done with you to people who've been in your life, but that's kind of what it's come to. So the hope is that we reach all of the folks who already know better. We lift them up, encourage them to fight, and then get the people in that middle area who maybe have just made a mistake, maybe they regret it, whatever, and now they're starting to see the light a little bit. And I really apologize for how long that took.
No need to apologize, Rex. That's all we got time for tonight. Second question actually kind of follows right along. What was your favorite piece of hate mail?
Oh, to choose. I have. Honestly, that is hard to decide exactly which one. I had one guy call me a puke puddle of a person, which I thought I like the alliteration. I like it when they put a little effort. You know what I mean? Because I get a lot of just the F you, or you're dumb liberal whack, whatever, mild threats or that sort of. Oh, maybe actually my favorite one guy challenged me to a duel, and he spelled it the wrong way. I was like, "You want to do something together?" So I like it when there's a little imagination. I can't think of when I stopped responding. Sadly, I used to respond to stuff and mess around with them a little bit, but my wife got really mad. She's like, "Stop poking the bear," because then there would be threats, and it just got kind of ugly. So I had to just shut up, and now I just block it. I block so many emails; it's amazing. I can't even imagine what the block list on my email looks like. Because again, it's just not worth it. I mean, people are just trying to get a rise out of you, and the only thing they hate really is being ignored. Silence is a killer for them, so I embrace that.
All right, we have another two-parter here, Rex. Part one: is it cathartic to write your columns? And two, what do you want your readers to feel when they read them?
That's a really good question. These are great questions. Thank you. So, yes, it is cathartic. It's cathartic when I'm able to just uncork, either satirically or seriously. And I bounce around. My guess is when I look back at some point, I'll realize it was maybe a mistake to not be a consistent voice, right? Like I didn't, Dave Barry. I grew up reading Dave Barry and loved Dave Barry, hilarious. But he's a humor writer. He's always funny, and another great humor writer, satirists, and that sort of thing. And I love to write stuff that at least I think is funny, but I also, what I kept, and I blame Trump for this too, really, if I'm being honest, because things would happen where I'm like, that's not funny. I was like, yeah, I can't make that funny because I'm so damn mad about it. So, so I tend to exist somewhere between smartass and just absolutely in a fit of rage somewhere, and so either way, it's cathartic. The things I enjoy the most are definitely when I'm trying to satirize what's happening, which is not honestly entirely easy right now because some of the things that are happening they're so crazy already that it's hard. The key to any kind of satire is that you have to make it ridiculous, right? And if you're making your point by making something completely over the top nuts, but when it's already over the top nuts, I'm like, well, I don't know where to go from here. So there have actually been times when I've started out writing something and taking like a satirical voice, and then showing my editor some of it, and we're like, yeah, this is not going to work. We can't do it. We can't make this crazier than it already is. So then you switch around. So what I always try to do is I try to find the approach that will be the most effective. And so I try not to think about myself and the way I want to write it. I try to think about it like, okay, what are people reading this going to take from it? What's going to be the most effective way to communicate whatever point it is that I'm trying to make? So yes, it can be very cathartic and it feels very good. What I want readers to take away. Yeah, I mean, the overarching goal is I want people to think about things. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I want it to force people to think about things. So if I'm writing something in a satirical voice, I want that humor, I want the highlighting the ridiculousness of it to force people to be like, yeah, wow, okay, yeah, that is pretty wacko. Like, or see it in that perspective. Or if I'm writing in a serious voice, I want people to, either share that emotion or at least be forced to confront that emotion, right? And because that is an act, and this is where even when I don't get hate mail from people, the people that don't like what I'm writing or disagree with what I'm writing, they read it and it forces you to react. It's the same way when I read a conservative writer who has maybe written something that I don't agree with. It might make me mad because I don't like what they're saying, but it is forcing me to think about my own position. It's forcing me to take in the way they're looking at it. So that works the opposite way as well. I'm, a conservative person reading something I wrote, excuse me, is having to think about, their own position. They're having to internally defend their own position. And I guess my hope is it's going to be complicated, because maybe they'll start to see that I'm right. I guess, or something to that effect.
All right. This is a very important question. What legitimate steps can we take to show support for media being attacked by the administration?
That it is pretty bad, and I know. I've taken a break. I'm on almost done, but I've been off for a couple of weeks here, so I'm a little disconnected intentionally. So I just had to get my face out of the fire hose. But I think there have been some things recently with the New York Times. I saw some headline somewhere. So it's bad. It is bad. And the only, I think this is true of pretty much everything when it comes to this administration, but our saving grace has always been their utter incompetence. And it is kind of what makes them less scary. There is always the threat of getting called out by Trump, as many journalists have experienced, or getting, roped into some kind of zany lawsuit or something, or have the Justice Department start leaning on them. As far as what readers can do when it comes to that, vote harder, I guess. Try to make sure we don't get people like this in there anymore. That would be step one. But I think, as you all, I'm sure, know, journalism is going through some things. It has been for a long time. I was witness to that very much in my time at the Tribune, where we went from kind of the very tail end of the glory days to not the glory days at all, and to meager just downsizing it. And really, I have for the past 2 decades really existed in an environment where I assume there's an axe swinging right behind me, and I'm just trying to stay ahead. That's the reality for journalists everywhere. And any journalist who says otherwise is kidding themselves. We just don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. So supporting journalism is important. Subscriptions, are extremely important. Obviously, that's fundamental for us. And there are so many that, I don't like to tell people to subscribe to this paper. It's where you live in your community. There's everything from there's independent journalists out there who are doing great work, and they deserve to be supported as well. So I don't like to sort of say, make sure you're getting the Chicago Tribune only, or USA Today only. But unfortunately, paying for journalism one way or the other is a good thing to do. And I don't particularly care whose journalism it is, but as long as you're supporting someone who's doing good, responsible, ethical journalism, then I think that in and of itself helps, because it is an industry that's trying very hard to maintain independence and survive and not be sucked up by billionaires and that sort of thing. I think raising your voice is always important. We all have platforms to one degree or another, unless you're just completely not on. Even if you're not online, there's events like this, there's community meetings. There's always a place to speak. Sometimes I wish, honestly, that we had fewer platforms, because now that we have a platform, now that platforms are so easy to get, everybody is squawking, and you're like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be on quite so loud. Speak out. Don't ever think your voice doesn't matter. Whether it's in a community meeting, whether you're writing a letter to the editor, whether you're posting something on your personal blog or on Facebook or God help you, Twitter, or wherever you have a voice. If you don't like what you're seeing when it comes to the world of journalism and the way the administration is attacking journalists and stuff, speak out. It's the Horton Hears a Who factor. For those of you not familiar, that's all those little voices. That's your reading assignment for after. All those little voices, they add up and they get heard and they matter.
All right. Both the Justice Department and the MAGA faithful have become aggressive about attacking Trump critics. You joke about the hate mail you receive. Have the attacks on you escalated, and does the current environment make you fearful?
Well, I'll go back to the aforementioned incompetence, which there have been a couple times where I've started to feel a little bit fearful, but then they've invariably shown themselves to be complete clods, and I feel a lot less fearful. I'm also, I feel safe I felt this way at the Tribune, and I feel this way at USA Today. I feel safe in my organization. So I don't think that, I feel like I have and that's the nice thing about working for a decent sized news organization is you have backing, right? Like, I don't feel like they would hang me out to dry if somebody was to come after me. I feel like any reputable news organization would stand up and fight, which we've seen happen. I know the Times has done that in the past, and they're doing it again, I'm sure, with what's going on now. So, yeah, I don't really feel fearful. And I will say an interesting thing, and I've noticed this since not too long after the election, honestly. I mean, it didn't take very long into the second term to start to see the wheels coming up the wagon a little bit. And particularly the promises, which never made sense in the first place. And often, in many cases, were just ludicrous and made up to begin with. But the promises of grocery prices dropping on day one and this, that, and the other thing, that very quickly didn't happen. And I think there was a sizable realization among a decent number of people who had voted for this administration that said, oh, shoot, I don't think this is actually good. I don't think that miracle gas price drop or egg price drop. The eggs did actually go down, like critical one thing, but everything else went up, but at least the eggs went down. It's great if you're into omelets. So what I have seen, particularly over the past 6+ months, I would say, is a serious downshift in hate mail and just general negative response to the stuff that I write, coming from the right and far right. And that is about as unscientific a thing as you can throw out there. But I will say, this has always interested me, because when you have a decent sized platform, you're getting a decent amount of feedback. And it does give you a little sense of which way the wind is blowing. Before the first Trump election, the hatred of Hillary Clinton was red hot. Red hot. I had never, I was writing all through the Obama presidency, both terms. And a lot of people hated Obama. You may have noticed, Barack Obama had detractors on the right. And nothing came even close to when I would write something about Hillary. The anger just tore it. And so I was very nervous about that election. And I would, to this day, I wish I'd actually written it, just so I could prove it. But yeah, sure you were. But so I was really concerned. And it was solely based on that. It was just based on what I was seeing. But what I was seeing wasn't nothing, right? I mean, what I was seeing was a cross-sampling of voter temperament. And so I was very concerned. Now, fast forward to right now, and what I'm seeing encourages me, because I feel like the fight's gone from some of these folks. The people who were these stalwarts, who felt it was their job to go after every lib out there who was mouthing off in the press, and defend their man. That has definitely tapered off dramatically. And so, it coincides with the poll. That's another reason that I don't think that it's just not, that this is just random. The polling shows tremendous unpopularity, including Trump losing significant ground among his actual base, which has not happened in the entire decade or whatever that we've been dealing with this. That's fingers crossed. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
The next couple of questions are going to require you to look into the hearts and the souls and the minds of the public. No problem, right? Do you have a feel for how the average Republican views the deference that Congress has given to the president, especially given the impact of the one big beautiful bill on many of those people?
That's a real tricky one. I'm certainly not an expert on Republicans per se. There is, yes, I think that there is considerable frustration. I think, so I always kind of separate it out. Trump is not a Republican. Trump is not a conservative. Okay, Trump is a carnival barker. He is an ideologue, and he is a massive narcissist. Okay, but he does not. In my absolute heart, do not think he ascribes to any particular political philosophy. And frankly, the thing about him that surprises me the most is that when he won the first time, which he was definitely not expecting to happen, when he won the first time, he could have pivoted. And you heard that. It became a joke, like, oh, Trump's pivoting, he's becoming presidential, whatever. But he's a good enough, I'll give him that, right? He's a good enough showman and con artist. He could have, if he'd swung even just a little bit left, if he'd softened and gotten himself down to sort of like a, John McCain-ish, Republican mentality and stuff, sort of moved a little bit even to the center, he could have very possibly done really well and actually become popular, not just among this like really angry red meat eating base. Obviously, he did not do that because his heart is made of. I don't know. I mean, he's incapable of whatever. But I have Republican friends. I like some of my colleagues, even back in the Tribune days, et cetera, more conservative folks who, this really isn't what they're about. And I don't like to, I'm past excusing, right? If you voted for Trump, screw you. You voted for Trump. I'm not okay with that. First time around, maybe, right? Second time, good Lord. Third time, come on. I mean, Jesus, like, what are we doing here? Like, so I don't excuse it personally. This is on them. This is on them. What's happening right now, what we've seen happening, some of the absolute despicable things that have happened in this country, not to mention, health war and things that are happening right now, like along those lines. That's on the people that made that decision. That was an active, informed decision. You knew what you were getting from them at that point. So I don't excuse those who voted. We're just like, well, I just can't vote for a Democrat. I'm like, well, thanks. You just voted for, just this nightmare. But, there are Republicans out there who know what they've done. And they made that deal because they couldn't stomach whatever, a Democrat or a woman, perhaps. I think that's the case in a lot of instances. But I think that they are disgusting. I think there are a lot of, conservative people with actual conservative values don't like what they're seeing at all. And the polling also bears that out as well. Now, the question, and my editor always pushes me on this, he's like, well, yeah, but would they vote for him again? Probably. And that's a problem that I have with people like that. That's a fundamental problem. I mean, I have a deep, there are some issues that I just don't, there's no middle ground, right? I'm not going to middle ground you on whether, like transgender people should exist or whatever, I can't go there. That's just me personally. But I think that a lot of Republicans are frustrated. They don't like what they're seeing. I think they're recognizing, that they felt like they had to do this and they're seeing the fallout of it. That doesn't, to me, mean that they're either taking responsibility for it or that or that they wouldn't do it again. If they don't, I think they still see the other option as being a bad path, which I don't see the stakes being similar personally, but that's up to them. So I don't. The question about Congress, I don't know. I mean, it's not like I've heard a lot of Republicans specifically say, like, oh, I wish Congress would rein him in. I do think that a lot of Republican folks feel that way. And again, one of the hardest things about all of this, and a thing that we'll have to reckon with once Trump is out of the picture, assuming we get back to some sort of normalcy, is the idea that people I mean, it's not like all of a sudden normalcy is not going to be everybody is us. Right? All of a sudden, everybody's liberal in America, and yay, off we go with our, going to Whole Foods or whatever it is we do. It's going to be, we're still going to be so different, and so, part of it is, I mean, there's going to be some forgiving that's going to happen, which is hard for me personally, but there's going to have to be some way for us to move forward after this. I don't know what that looks like. I'll be honest. I have no clue. I think it's going to be tough, and I think there's going to be a lot of resentment for a long time. And so I think Republicans also probably know that. Like some of the Republicans who maybe are regretting things right now, who wish Congress would get more involved and like stop him from doing certain things they don't like. And they're probably a little bit afraid of, oh God, what happens? The pendulum's swinging back, and it's coming fast, and it's going to hit us. So what does that feel like? So I think that's a little bit where they are. I'm sorry, that's a tough one to answer concretely. So I'm sort of dancing around that a little bit, I guess, but I hope that at least gives some answer.
Rex, these next two questions are going to require you to polish up your crystal ball and look into the future. The first one is, will the Epstein victims get justice?
There's a crystal ball question. Yeah, I mean, the short answer is no. I don't think so. I mean, whatever justice they wind up getting, after this, if the next administration comes in and really, releases what needs to be released, really gets to the bottom of things. But as far, I don't believe anything's ever going to stick to Donald Trump. That's the bottom line. I've given up on that belief because the guy has squeaked out so much. I mean, like any given Tuesday, he does something that would have absolutely destroyed somebody's political career. Destroyed. And I don't mean like back in the 20s. I mean like 15 years ago, or if Biden did it, whenever, like 4 years ago, it would have been the end of the world. So I don't understand. There's a lot of things about Donald Trump I don't understand, and that is one thing: his imperviousness to accountability. I just cannot figure it out. I don't understand. Some people, find him very charismatic. I do not. I find him annoying as hell. But there is something in that charisma. There's something that just seems to make him, tough on, and I don't get it. So I personally don't hold out any hope for any accountability for him regarding him. I think he gets out and just gripes the rest of his life. And they probably try to throw stuff at him where they can, and it doesn't work, or it drags out, or whatever. I mean, he's 80s. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not wishing anything, but so yeah, I just don't see a lot of accountability on that front. I mean, I think we're going to learn a lot more about the Epstein case as far as what that yields in terms of justice. And at this point, I don't know if there even is justice for what happened to those women, and the way that, in fairness, not just this administration. I mean, there's a lot tied up in that case, and it isn't just all on the right by any stretch. I mean, we know Clinton's involved a little bit. I don't know to what degree. That's not anything I ever like to or would speculate about one way or the other. But that whole awful story intertwines with powerful people, quote unquote, and powerful people are very hard to get. What with all the power they've got and stuff. So at this point, I would love that. I would love to see something positive happen for the victims of these monsters, but I don't hold out a great deal of hope personally.
I think you've already answered the next question, but I'll just check here. Can you see any malfeasance or criminal action, criminal charge that would result in the president going to prison?
I can see lots of. I mean, in a logical world where laws matter and all that kind of fun stuff. Yes, I mean, he's broken. I mean, it's just not. I'm not a lawyer. I'm married to one, but I'm not a lawyer. I like to say that I went to law school sort of de facto. So, but yeah, I'll be real surprised. And I do think, I'm curious actually. Once he's out, and you'll note I am assuming he leaves, which is a very big assumption at this point. What with the drone port that they're installing at the bunker of the used to be the East Wing. But assuming he leaves, there is either going to be a absolutely unquenchable thirst for vengeance, which I would get and applaud. There also may be a extremely strong desire among the public to just get this the hell over and just forget they ever heard that name, and to just whatever, get them out of here. We got stuff to do. And I don't know. I don't know which way the mob's going to flop out. I could really do it.
Well, okay. Don't put your crystal ball away just yet. The president's approval rating has dropped. How do you think that will play out when Election Day rolls around this fall?
In the midterm?
Yeah,
it's a big deal. I'm out of the prognostication business. I got out of that a long time ago because I have an amazing tendency to be wrong. But his approval ratings are horrendous. Like, these are real bad. And there is, despite his uniqueness as a political figure who has defied so many, norms and that sort of thing, there is a mathematical reality that comes into play. And so I don't think it's a guarantee that the blue wave that is some are predicting, et cetera, absolutely happens. No, but I would much rather be a Democrat right now than a Republican in all instances. There is having, because it's not just that he's unpopular. He's unpopular. People are very disappointed in him. So a lot of people, whether they were hardcore MAGA or whether they were just people who were frustrated by inflation or whatever the case may be, very disappointed. And on the economy in particular, highly disappointed. So that's really bad. It's a real tuber. The war is, boy, is that not helping, like, at all. That's just because people see that, and it's just become. To me, that's one of the most mystifying things about that's happened since he got back into office. Because I guess it was just, cockiness or something, but to think that you can do that in the Middle East and it's just going to be a day or two or whatever is absolutely bonkers. And it really goes against so much of what he personally and his base, what he has preached to his base and what his base wants. Even like Vance too, Vance was very anti, foreign entanglements and that sort of thing. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know what motivated it exactly. Well, I have some suspicions, but regardless, that has just been the biggest cell phone I've ever seen personally, politically. I mean, he was already trending way unpopular because of his failure to fix, quote unquote, the economy and make life wonderful and launch a new golden age for all of us to enjoy. And then a war. And the only thing keeping this from being a complete wipeout disaster for him is the fact that and I'm careful how I say this, but one casualty is too many, but for a military operation, the casualties have been relatively low, thankfully, thus far. Personally, I don't think anybody should have been involved in this. I don't think anybody should have had to wind up in that position, or obviously not, be wounded or killed in it. I think it's awful. But I think if you had seen high casualties at this point, I can't even imagine how low his ratings would be right now. And then the public just rage over this whole thing. And again, please, I hope you understand how I'm not. I don't like to equate those things too much. I'm just talking to you kind of pragmatically about it, which is difficult to do. I don't mean that to sound at all insensitive. So I think the Republicans are in big trouble, big trouble, and he is going to weigh this down because he is, even if they don't want him to be the public face of the party, he damn well will make himself. I mean, you saw that over the 4th of July stuff. He was like, good Lord. The reflecting pool, he's in charge of everything. He's putting his face and name on everything while he's at it. So there's no debating who's running the show here. And if people are unhappy by enormous percentages, the chances of them voting for the other party are pretty solid, as they usually are in the midterm. Anyway, but this just stands.
Okay, that covers the Republican side and suppressing the vote. What do you think is the winning strategy for the Democrats this fall? What do they need to do to run the most successful campaign?
Stop being timid. Like I get real. I don't have room to write a lot about Democrats, if I'm being honest, because I'm trying to write about the guy that's swiftly throwing the country down the toilet. I can wait. It's like I might have to get at the Democrats later once we clear the current problems we're having. But I think that the Democrats, they're, and I'm not the first to say this by any stretch. I think they're a little bit too influenced by, they're working like off too much data and too much, like they have analysts and what do you call them, political, I'm blanking on the word right now. Consultants, thank you, yes, consultants. I think there's a consultancy problem in the Democratic Party that kind of gets them to be a little bit too timid. Now, by and large, in terms of messaging, I think most of what they're talking about is good. They got, people, they're smart to focus on the economy because that is always going to be at the top of people's minds. They're very smart to focus on corruption because that pisses people off, and it is vivid. The corruption that is going on in this administration is absolutely in your face. And I think most people are to some degree aware of it. So when they're reminded via, whether it's a Democrat speaking at an event or it's a political ad or whatever, I think that is that really reinforces that. I'm not doing well. Grocery prices are too high. Gas is ridiculous. And these guys are, building a ballroom with the, or blah, blah, blah. There's a lot to be mad about there. And so I feel like overall, I think the Democrats are hitting that, and I think they need to continue hitting that. So to me, the economy, but again, it's, what I've seen so far is good. The economy with a message of what they will do, not just this economy sucks, we'll fix it, because that's what Trump did. And that, but sort of a specific address, specific ways of addressing people's economic issues, combined with a real focus on the corruption. I think, you don't want to just like make it all about Trump's the worst, we hate Trump, that can get real squishy in a hurry. I think you need to be specific. And I think, again, the corruption is a huge element to it. The other thing that I see that I don't like as much is that some of the, when I left for my break was right when the whole communism stuff was really ramping up from Trump. I don't know if that's still red hot, so no pun intended. Which I absolutely, personally, especially as somebody who writes humor, I love it because it's just so funny to go from, somebody wants your life to be better, they're a socialist, no, wait, they're actually a communist, and, then there's probably something above communism that they'll move to next, just, I don't know what that would be. It's just all ridiculous. is. I mean, first of all, nobody can tell you exactly what a socialist is. I'm convinced of that. They use the term social. I don't think, AOC or Mom, I don't think Bernie Sanders knows what a socialist is exactly. Like, I don't know if he can give you a specific definition. It's just become a word, right? And communist even more so, right? Communist, nobody knows what that means. They just are like, oh, it can't be a communist country. So there's a lot of nonsense in there. What I see is people like Mamdani in New York and AOC, really, really good communicators who are saying, and not only saying, and Mamdani's is doing some stuff that is very popular. It's not going to be popular everywhere, but it's not supposed to be, right? Like, that's not the way it works. What works in New York City isn't going to work in, Tulsa necessarily, but there's still good ideas there. There's excellent communication happening. There's good examples of good progressive ideas being implemented. So lean into that. Instead of pulling like oh, no, he's a socialist, we can't go near him. It's like, no, just shut up, because you can override that quickly. Because again, I don't think the Democrats benefit by responding to the GOP scare tactics and running away. I think that's a bad idea. I think it's way past time for Democrats to take this nonsense on head first and be like, look, we can call us socialists or we're blue in the face. I don't care what you call us. Here's what we want to do to make your life better. That makes sense. And again, and to say, look, what people over here want versus what people over here want is going to be different. And that's fine. We're a big country. That's the way it works. Follow. There's tons of ways to navigate this, but I just feel like there's a little too much chicken. Well, some Democrats feel a little bit too bad, and they kind of run off, and they let Fox News scare them. Oh, Fox News said something. They latched on to this communism thing. We gotta watch out. We gotta hide. No, screw that. This guy's freaking unpopular as hell. That whole party's unpopular right now. People are mad. Go at it. Be smart. Be aggressive. Don't assume that everybody's an opponent, because they aren't. People are smart. People are way smart, and they, that's another. We kind of, just because Fox News has a huge audience and says a bunch of crazy stuff, it doesn't mean that people can't think for themselves. So I think the Democrats are a little too easily spooked, and I'd like to see that change. Again, overall, I think they're doing a good job, and they just need to continue. So hopefully that continues going into the midterms. But I want to see fire in the belly. I want to see people pissed off, because, pardon my language, people are pissed off. So I think you need to reflect that.
All right. Well, we're in the home stretch. 4 questions left.
Each 7 parts.
We're going to limit you to 2 more hours, Rex. How can we counter the gerrymandering that is going on now?
Yeah, that's it's also dumb. I mean, like and I mean, they're doing the right thing. I mean, you can't just let it happen and ignore it. I mean, but we're basically, for all intents and purposes, we're in a slap fight right now when it comes to gerrymandering. It's like, oh, you're gerrymandering, I'm going to gerrymander. It's really annoying. I mean, none of it really should be happening. I mean, there's legitimate reasons to do, what do you call it? Like, reviews of voting districts and stuff based on census data. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but this sort of aggressive gerrymandering is not ideal for anyone. I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious what both the Republicans started it. So I'll say it. But they, it's obvious what both sides are doing. You're trying to kind of gain your advantage. I personally, based on, I don't like it, obviously, right? And I think a lot of it's really crooked and dodgy. And I wish it wasn't happening. But it doesn't worry me a great deal in the grand scheme of things. And I've read a decent amount about this and talked to some people as well who kind of know what they're talking about. And the odds of what's happened having a significant impact on, it could have some impact on some individual races, obviously, which that's the whole idea. But the odds of it having overwhelming impact on especially on the upcoming election. I don't feel very worried about it, honestly. And part of that too is because I do have a fairly high level of confidence in the frustration of voters and the likelihood that the numbers are going to be pretty high and they're going to be pretty opposed to the Republicans in this. So I think there's enough there to override that. I think, legally, I think they're doing everything. What's being done is what can be done. I don't know how much any individual person can help with that outside of the get out the vote efforts and really, really drilling down into that. And again, that's where my confidence is a little higher because I think the enthusiasm is higher among people. I think you're going to see more people getting involved with get out the vote efforts, which are vitally important in any election. Like set gerrymandering aside, it's vitally important. It becomes even more important when you're dealing with shenanigans like that. It's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of effort, but I think the will is there, and so I think we just have to keep encouraging people around us, people in other states, people in the places where there are gerrymandering issues at hand and stuff to really just fire them up, or if you can't do something and can donate a little or whatever to try to help out with that.
Well, speaking of the will and the turnout and doing it, how confident are you that this November we will have a fair election?
The election will be fair. I don't have any doubt about that whatsoever. What I have enormous doubt about is what the fellow in charge of things is going to have to say and how much impact it's going to have. I think some of it's going to depend on what happens. If it's a blue wave, the likes of which we've never seen, and a complete wipeout of the Republicans, I think the Republicans are going to back down pretty quickly from any. They're going to be like, okay, look, we've followed this guy long enough. We got to save our skin now and await the next round and stop being conspiracy theorists and that sort of thing. If it's tight, it's going to get interesting. There's going to be a lot of legal wrangling going on. I don't have faith. I don't have faith in a lot these days. Dairy Queen, I have faith in. All consistently good. I do have faith in still in our legal system. I think that the legal system, and I know the Supreme Court, right? But I mean, it's got to bubble up before it gets hit. I feel okay personally. And maybe you come send me an email. Late November when the Capitol's burned down or something like that. How's how you feel now? I think and the key thing again there though is the more of a shellacking it is, the better. Like that's what really needs to happen because you can sort of like monkeying around proof the election by voting in such ridiculous numbers that it just becomes impossible for them to deny what has happened. That is the idea. That's the way to handle it. We can worry about it. We can worry about the Supreme Court. We can worry about gerrymandering, all these sorts of things. Not a lot we can do though with all that. What we can do is, vote really hard. Like when you punch that. No, but encourage people. Do what you can. If you phone bank, whatever you can do, it doesn't matter. Every little bit makes a difference. And I think that's where the keys are for making sure that this is just not one that when he stands up and says this was rigged, which he will do. I mean, it's obvious, right? There's no doubt. He's already prepping everything. I mean, he's probably got the post written about how rigged it was. It's the most rigged election anyone's ever seen. A big guy came up to me the other day and said, well, whatever. That is laughable, right? That when he posts that, he is laughing. It is not met with fear. It is not met with anger. It is met with derision. Just people being like, okay, dude, whatever. See ya.
Well, my favorite president, the president of Spotlight, has just told me that we have to wrap up. So there's one question left. Actually, a request and a question. The request is, please keep the laughs coming. So the question is, what is the funniest political issue today?
Oh boy. I've had a lot of fun with the reflecting pool, I gotta be honest. That's been a real hoot. I think I said, I wrote something about having RFK go in and drink the algae. There was everything. RFK is also very funny. Like he's another, I have a really good time kicking him around. Just because it's, I mean, a lot of, honestly, it's like shooting fish in a barrel with a lot of things. So I need a column, I'm like, man, what did he do? Oh, okay, there you go. So, yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, also, again, I haven't been writing the past 3 weeks, but the 4th of July stuff was really funny, just because I love seeing, you know, right, seeing the big boys little party not working out quite the way he wanted it to. And stuff. That was just some Schadenfreude overdose for me. But that's it. You know, I mean, it's all like in a twisted way. It's a lot of it is funny, and I think we're kind of getting. We're not out of it, not even close, right? A lot of god awful stuff can happen. A lot of god awful stuff is happening as we speak, and I try to balance that. It is, I mean, it's kind of hard because, you know, I'm cognizant at all points of the serious stuff that's happening, the stuff that ICE is doing, which I mean, I've in the past had some real, like early on with family separation, the first term, I wrote a lot about that, and it's just god awful. And so I keep aware of, obviously, the real serious and bad things that are happening. But I do think that it's like it has just become like a cloddish reality show at this point. I mean, and it's serious, and of course, again, I'm not trying to discount that, but as far as what's funny to me, in a lot of ways, what's happening is funny because sometimes I'm like, okay, this is the avatar for white supremacy that you guys picked. I was like, what do you guys think? I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. This is your guy? Yeah, anyway. But, so I do find it's failing spectacular, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that doesn't mean we're safe. And that doesn't mean Democrats are going to win in the midterms. Or that the Democrats are going to win in 2028. That doesn't mean that. But it does mean that, damn it, I'm going to enjoy this disaster a little bit because I deserve it. I've been through the ringer with this freaking guy, and we all have, right? And so if we can laugh at his dumb ass making stupid mistakes, saying things that don't happen, you know, putting his face on stuff nobody wants his face on, and then being told he has to remove it, and then like the Kennedy Center, which they took his name off and he put a big curtain up, and he still hasn't taken the damn thing down, at least as far as I know. So, I mean, it's just, this stuff is, you can't write, I mean, you really can't write this. If I had, like, you know, if 10 years ago they'd asked me to write a political book about some wacky reality star becoming president, I couldn't have touched the level of absurdity that has actually happened in real life. So, so that is kind of what I enjoy. I don't like it when bad things happen to people. But I kind of like when bad things are happening to this administration. Right? And I do think it's fair game, given the cruelty, given the just nastiness that they display so obviously, right? These are the people that call us, not just journalists, liberal folks, you know, enemies of the people, or, you know, whatever. I mean, all, you name it. They call, you know, they wouldn't spit on us if we were on fire, is what it sounds like half the time. So, man, I'm going to give it to them. I mean, you know, screw you. I've had it. I'm glad to see the wheels coming off the wagon. I want to see the train, and, you know, the whole time. So if that makes me a bad person, I'm sorry. I have enough time to atone before it's all over.
Inspirational words to close with. Well, our hour has flown by, and I'd like you all to join me, please, in thanking Rex for coming out tonight.
Really, I enjoyed it so much. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you to Mary and for inviting me in the first place. And this is great work that's being done, and I'm really glad to see it. And anything I can do to help, I'm always happy to do that. So go out there and be strong, and we'll get through it one way or another.